Hey guys, what's up? Nullrage here, and today we're taking a look at Mr. Fantastic. Let me remind you guys that this is all recorded on Test Center, and as such, things are likely to change. So, what we see now and the final product may be very different. But, I've gone ahead and put 1 point into every skill, and I'm of course wearing no gear for these videos. But first, before we go over his skills, let's go ahead and hop in and take a look at his synergy. We've got something fairly interesting here. At level 25, he's going to unlock a 5% crafting discount. That's pretty cool. I like that bonus. I guess you have to have it applied to... Yeah, you would need to apply it and then go craft. Interesting. And then at level 50, he's going to have 4% critical damage. Critical damage is always good. Alright, oops, I forgot to turn that off. There we go, okay. So 0 synergies, no gear, 1 point every skill, just for a baseline. Let's take a look at the first tree, Elastic Fists. The first skill in this tree is Stretch Punch. It's going to do some physical damage, and Weaken, it is a basic. Really wide cone on this. Short reach, though. I like that. Next skill we've got is Stretch Dash. Some physical damage and a knockdown. And a pretty cool animation. I like that. Next up, we've got Giant Punch. It's going to deal some physical damage and extra damage versus bosses. Does not seem to be able to Giant Punch with his left hand. Maybe that will change. Yeah, I'd like to see that change personally. I don't think it's right to always be using your right. You gotta switch it up, man. Anyway, Fantastic Grab is next on the list. Seize your enemies in an area in front of you with your stretched arms. There we go. It's got a little bit of a cooldown on it, about 3 seconds. And I imagine it's going to pull everybody into melee range. Next up, we've got Elastic Punch, which is a basic. It is still a melee skill. However, that is quite surprising once you see it in action.
Why resist?
Exactly how far does it? Wow, am I off the screen here? Alright, let's place... I can't quite tell if I'm hitting that thing right over there. That is a long range. That is an incredibly long range.
Right in the jewels.
Right in the jewels. Do these even have jewels? I don't even know. Anyway. Next up we've got Elastic Barrage. Very cool looking skill. A lot of people are going to be excited to see this one. I know there's been a lot of requests for something like this on the forums. Let's have a look. And there you go. You wanted it, they made it. It's there. That's awesome. Right now this is experiencing the wiggle effect, but I'm sure that will be fixed before it goes live. Oh man, that could have been so much damage. But anyway, next we've got Corkscrew Punch. Tightly coil your body around itself, then suddenly release the coil to fling your fist out, pummeling and knocking down nearby enemies. This is a charge ability, so it's going to do 100% extra damage if it's fully charged. Let's have a look. And when you have motion blur, or maybe it's distortion, or screen shake, or something. Yeah, it's probably screen shake. So there's a little bit of screen shake effect with this skill. Gives it a very disorienting kind of feel. Powerful feel, though, to it. I like it. Next up, we've got the Plasticity tree. Go ahead and pull. Actually, I need to keep that. Pull these down on the bar. Oh, that's SIG. That SIG is fun. We'll go over that in a second. Inflate. Rapidly expand your body, rejuvenating yourself, and knocking back enemies, and blah 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 blah. It's going to do some physical damage. It's going to regenerate your health. It's going to restore spirit as well. It's also going to knock back enemies and projectiles during the inflation. And then for 5 seconds after using it, damage will be negated by 15% of the damage you take will be negated. It's got a cooldown of 15 seconds. Let's have a look at Inflate. It's like he just swallowed a whole bunch of air and just... I'll wait 5 seconds and one more look here at it. Pretty cool. Low area of effect on it though. It does not... There's this blue like aura thing that moves off of it that goes a little bit further than what the actual damage does, which is strange. Next up, we've got Elastic Body. It is a passive skill, but it also has a crowd control tied to it. Passively, it's going to give you defense rating, projectile reflection chance, and projectile deflection chance. And here's how those scale. You'll notice the cooldown also goes down as you put points into it. At 20 points, 1762 base defense, and projectile reflection chance remains at 5%, but deflection chance goes up to 23.2. I imagine, yeah, the reflection chance will remain at 5, regardless of how many points, but the deflection chance will increase. Here's the crowd control immunity or breaker animation. That sounded odd. Did you need to check your pants, dude. You might have ripped something. I know that suit's supposed to stretch, but that sounded really strange. Oh, I did it again. Okay, moving on. The wheel. Hold down the hotkey to morph into a wheel and travel rapidly. There you go. Very similar to the bikes that Wolverine and Ghost Rider have acquired recently. But Mr. Fantastic does not need vehicles when he can just transform into a wheel. Alright, next up we've got Super Stomp. This one's really fun. Spring into the air, knocking up and crushing enemies you land on. It's going to deal some initial physical damage, and it's got a cooldown of 2 seconds. Boom. That's pretty cool. It seems to have a knocking up and crushing enemies that you land on. So it's got a knock up effect. Not a knock down, a knock up. Leaves a giant footprint, or 2 giant footprints there in the ground for quite some time. Sort of like Cage was here.
How did that feel?
Next up, we've got the Signature. This one's a lot of fun. Alright, so let's read about this one. Bound around the battlefield as a giant elastic sphere, knocking up and damaging enemies with each bounce. Physical damage per hit is shown there, and this can be activated up to 5 times within 15 seconds. The cooldown is only 30 seconds. This one... Alright. Let's just... When you activate it, you turn into a giant ball that bounces around the battlefield. You have your skill bar changes, and well, that would have been 5 times, but I spent too much time talking. you would have been able to slam the ground up to 5 times, and from the look of it, your cooldown continues to tick down while you are in ball form. So, depending on how quickly you use these skills, the cooldown could be as low as only 23 seconds. Okay, that's cool. Next up, we've got the Twister. Your basic whirlwind. A little bit of movement tied to it. Oh, and you can do this. Make it spin really fast or really slow by rotating around your character. Now, I'm not entirely sure if the animation negation kind of effect there is intended, being able to slow it down or speed it up. So we'll have to see when it goes live whether that sticks. Next up, we've got the Super Genius tree. About said Superb Genius, but nope. Oh, this Herbie. He's so cute. Alright, so, taking advantage of his supreme genius, he's able to outwit his opponents. Yours is one of the finest minds ever to evolve. Combine that with an iron will and you can solve any problem that presents itself. Get your MacGyver on. Refresh the cooldowns of all gadget powers. And this skill itself has a cooldown of 3 seconds. So anytime you use this, you're going to refresh the cooldowns of anything in this tree. In addition, this skill has a passive effect, granting you crit rating, dodge rating, and your attacks deal 10% more damage for 8 seconds after using a cooldown power. Stacks up to 3 times. That's pretty cool. Reduces the cooldown of all gadget powers by 1 second when you critically hit or brutally strike, up to once per second. Okay, so I'm wondering, I didn't see anything in this tree that really has massive cooldowns other than Herbie. So I'm wondering how effective Outwit is actually going to be, but we'll see. We'll see. There's how it scales, giving you tons of crit, tons of dodge. Might be a pretty cool passive. Let's actually get into what the gadgets do themselves. Graviton Emitter is going to do some physical damage and apply a vulnerability. Now, there was some... Nope, it's all physical damage. There was some question as to whether he was going to be physical energy hybrid or all physical damage. But I imagine if Reed wanted to do physical damage with energy weapons, he'd figure out a way. And it seems he has. Alright, let's have a look at Graviton Emitter. It's going to have a knockdown effect in addition to the vulnerability, it seems. It doesn't say how long the knockdown is. Wait, that was the wrong skill. Why did I hit that? Oh, that was Outwit. Okay, that explains. I was like, what? Anyway, Graviton Emitter. Here we go. That's pretty cool. This throws out this little plate. And I don't know if it pulls everybody in or just knocks them down. Compress nearby matter, damaging and knocking down enemies. Probably just knocks them down. I'd have to use it in Midtown, and I will be doing some gameplay videos of this after I get done with the skill overview, so check out the description below for gameplay videos, and we'll find out whether or not the Graviton Emitter pulls people in or not. Alright, next up in the tree we've got Photonic Stimulant Field and Repulsion Field Array. Now, these do not seem to be... You can put points into either one of them without locking yourselves out of the other, you know. Not like Moon Knight in that regard. I had activating another aura power. But you can only have one of them on at a time. Looks like Photonic Stimulant is intended to be the DPS option, where Repulsion Field Array, the tank option. Photonic Stimulant is going to give you you and your team accuracy, and it will also cause your critical hits and brutal strikes to have a chance to stun. Pretty cool. Repulsion Field Array will give you and your allies toughness, and any enemies that strike you may be stunned. Here's the scaling on the percentages of those stuns. Looks like 15%, 14.5 at 20 points, 15 at 16 points. Or, sorry, 21 points. I don't know where my mind is. Anyway, they both scale about the same. Next up, we've got Herbie. He's so cute. Call in a Herbie bot to hinder enemies and provide the Constitution buff for you and your allies. He's got a 15-second summon duration and a 30-second cooldown on this skill. He's going to grant Constitution to you and your allies, and also he's going to run around stunning people like this. Herbie, we got work to do. Oh, he's so cute. Look at him. Zap. 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 And goodbye. And then, of course, if you can't get enough Herbie, you just reset the cooldown and, hey, Herbie again. That's the beauty of Outwit. Having Herbie all the time. That's the beauty of Outwit. Alright. Next up, we've got Hyperstatic Inducer. Throw a gadget that creates a massive eruption around the first enemy struck, stunning and damaging nearby enemies with a wave of force. Physical damage twice per second. Stun duration 2 seconds. Area duration 5. The stun duration goes up as you put points into the skill. The area duration does not. Sort of like Jungle Snare, however, it hit the first enemy. How can we test this? Okay. If I'm standing here and target that guy, it throws it out and hits him. If I'm standing here and target the same guy, hit this one. So it hits the first enemy that it hits. It is not an area selection skill. It just, you throw it out in a straight line, and the first enemy that comes in contact, it will stun them and damage everything around it. Next up and final in the tree, we've got Positron Emitter. Oh, you wanted beams? Alright, let's have some beams. Very cool. What exactly does this gadget look like? Let's have a look. I like that. Oh, it burnt the ground over here. It's like a big old circle of burning ground. Alright, so that's all the skills that he's got to work with. What about his ultimate? Oh wow. The Fantastic Four. Coordinate with the other members of the Fantastic Four to take out any threat, big or small. Johnny's gonna come in and do some energy damage. Thing's gonna come in and do some physical damage. And Sue is going to shield you for 3 seconds. Alright. Let's have a look. I haven't seen this one yet. What? Wait a minute. Okay, that was cool. That is cool.
Force fields.
And then, okay, so shielded for 3 seconds after all of that. Got it. Got it. I wonder, you're not immune to damage while Thing is swinging you around like that. That's crazy, though. That I love that animation. That's great. Oh, hey, look. Apparently, if you run a certain distance, you start turning into a Slinky. I did not know that. Learning! Yes! That's what Reed Richards is all about, isn't it? Learning. So, I hope you guys have enjoyed this skill overview. I hope I haven't neglected to mention anything. I think I went over all the skills, we went over the synergies. We can talk about uniques, but remember, when we talk about uniques, they're not finished. You can tell, obviously, they don't even have icons yet. So, let's go over the uniques. His first slot unique is, I'm going to give him some damage rating. It's going to increase the melee damage. You know what? Let's not talk about the first slot. Let's go to slot 3. Now, you'll understand why in a minute. Earth 616 Uniform Computer. It's going to give you some defense, some health, some dodge, some spirit, health regen, move speed. When you hit with a melee power, gain 545 melee damage rating. When you hit with a ranged power, gain 545 ranged damage rating for 5 seconds. It's also going to give you +1 to all powers. Alright, now that we know about the effects on that, when you hit with a melee power, you'll gain melee damage. When you hit the range, you gain range damage. Now we know about that, let's go back and talk about Earth 1610 1610 molecular gloves. It's going to give you some base damage rating and also increase the melee damage bonus on Earth 616 Uniform Computer by 25%. So that melee damage gain is going to increase to 25% of 500. I don't feel like math. We'll leave the math to Reed because he's good at it, and I'm not. Alright, then you're also going to get some physical damage rating. You're going to get some attack speed, crit damage, brute strike damage, 9% chance when you get attacked to gain tons of defense, some dodge rating for 5 seconds, 15-second cooldown on that effect. That's really nice. That's a lot of defense right there. And then +5 to the current rank of all Mr. Fantastic's elastic fist powers. All of his, melee skills over here. Next up, we've got the Fantastic Unstable Bodysuit. Defense, health, tenacity, power duration, spirit cost for powers. When your health drops below 30%, Sue Storm comes to your aid for 10 seconds, turning you invisible, increasing your defense, and giving you health regen for 5 seconds. Invisible, increasing defense, health regen. That's pretty cool. 1 minute cooldown on that effect. 11% chance when you deal, or chance to deal, physical damage and weaken enemies around you for 5 seconds when you deflect a ranged attack. Okay, that's a new time for something to proc. Deflecting a ranged attack causes you to proc physical damage. Well, I guess that sort of works the same way that the damage on dodge effects have worked. Things like, there's an artifact that drops from Juggernaut, Black Tom Shillelagh. Yeah, that's what it is. Or Nate Gray's Psionic Armor. That's got a damage everything around you when you dodge kind of thing. So that's pretty cool. I like new ways of proccing effects. Those are fun. We've talked about the third slot. Let's talk about the fourth slot, and unfortunately I don't have the fifth. But it's a gadget, and it's also going to have sort of a similar effect to this slot 1, but it will affect the other part of Uniform Computer here. It will give you some ranged bonus. Unfortunately, I can't show it off because I don't have it sad. Future Foundation Boots, however, is his fourth slot, giving you health, crit rating, brute strike rating, rare and special item find, When you hit with a ranged attack, your next melee power gains 441 melee damage rating and costs 5% less spirit when you hit with a melee attack. The inverse. Okay. That's cool. 2 to the current rank of all powers, and 2 to the current rank of Spectacular Spheroid and
It's disrespectful to keep Genius waiting.
Yes, it is. Well, on that note, I believe that's everything I can go over, so I won't keep you geniuses waiting any longer. Have fun with Doctor Strange. If you enjoyed this Doctor Strange, have fun with Reed Richards, aka Mr. Fantastic. I don't know why I've been calling him Doctor Strange for like a week now. Anyway, until next time, take it easy, have a good one, peace.